Hey guys, so this is a short little video to kind of explain how tissue regeneration and tissue repair occurs in the body. So obviously we know that when tissue repair is needed, it is because some foreign object has penetrated through the epithelial tissue of your body. So we can think of the skin. So let's say you're making dinner and you're cutting up a cucumber for your salad and your knife ends up going through part of your finger. Okay, so what essentially happened is that when that knife penetrates the skin and goes below the epithelial tissue. So if you're looking at this figure, the epithelial tissue itself is only the most superficial part of the skin. Underneath that, in the dermis, you've got blood vessels, you've got nerve endings, you've got hair follicles, and things like that. So the epithelial tissue is only the top part of your skin. So when that knife penetrates deeper than that, and we have damaged the skin under the tissue underneath the epithelium, what you've done now is you've introduced pathogens, you've introduced debris into that area. So the first thing your body has to do is seal that area off from everything else, right? Because your skin is your immune system's first line of defense in keeping you safe. So when that becomes compromised, your body has to seal it off to keep everything there. So in order to do that, okay, there are mast cells which are part of your immune system. They essentially sit in your skin and help your body to essentially trigger the immune system. And so when they get triggered, they, along with the cells that were damaged, are going to release histamine. So histamine is probably something you're familiar with, but you've heard about it when we're talking about allergies. So histamine is a signal in the body that causes your blood vessels to dilate. And that dilation at first could bring or cause you to bleed a little more, but actually what that's doing is it's bringing the parts of your immune system, the white blood cells, the macrophages and things around to the part of your body that's been injured. And so when the blood comes into that area, okay, it's bringing antibodies to help attach and attack the pathogens. It's bringing in clotting proteins to help that blood clot, excuse me, which is really the most important part at the very beginnings of an injury. Okay. Once that blood clot starts to form, okay, the platelets that are there are going to help to kind of seal that area off. So these platelets that are in your blood, excuse me, and then that is essentially form a huge blood clot to fill in where that wound is. The surface of that blood clot, the most superficial part of that blood clot, is going to turn into a scab. But underneath all that is where all the action is happening. Okay, so a couple of things that happen. That scab is sealing off that area. So again, it keeps new infections and new pathogens from getting in, new debris from getting in. And then underneath, you're going to have macrophages. Okay, these big these blue cells here. They're going to move into that area that's been injured, and they're going to work by engulfing any of the foreign objects that are still in your wound. So the bacteria, the actual chunks of things that could be in there, they're going to digest all that stuff so they can get rid of it. So as your tissue starts to heal, okay, these blood vessels down here that were cut, they're going to start growing new capillaries. You can kind of see them on this figure here as the very thin brownish tan lines. They're going to infiltrate that blood clot. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to turn that blood clot into a soft mass called granulation tissue. Right. That granulation tissue is important in the wound healing process because that's going to essentially what gives rise to the new tissue. So those macrophages continue eating, and now instead of eating the debris that's in the wound, what they are doing now is actually eating away the blood clot, while the fibroblasts, which I believe are these blue, I don't know, worm-looking things here, those fibroblasts are going to be laying down new collagen, and collagen kind of is the framework for the new tissue that's being built, right? So that's kind of the beginning of the rebuilding process. Now, once that starts to happen, okay, so now we've got the fibroblasts that are in here, the myofibroblasts that are in there, the macrophages that are in here, in this proliferative phase. What's happening now is the epithelial tissue, they're at the surface of the skin, the most superficial part, they're going to start to heal, okay? And what that's going to do is these cells that are just surrounding that wound are going to go into cell division. They're going to make some more of themselves, and what they're going to do is fill in this gap here. And they're essentially going to do it from the bottom up. And as they do that, it's going to push away that scab. And so when your scab falls off naturally, it's because this wound site here has now healed completely. Okay, then what you notice sometimes if the wound is severe enough, there's going to be a depression in the skin where that wound occurred. That's just because the tissue underneath is still healing. Okay, it doesn't stop healing as soon as that scab falls off. You're making some more tissue to go underneath here, and eventually, if all goes well, it's going to push that back up, and it's going to be like you never had any issue in that area at all. Sometimes you get scar tissue that shows up. That's usually in the much bigger wounds, or if you have issues with the repair process.